and protect the last ocean.
Te roa Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker, kia ora tātou e te whare. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to take an opportunity to talk to the Kohanga Reo report just released earlier this week, and I feel a bit of a hypocrite doing so in English rather than Māori, bearing in mind the relationship between Kohanga Reo and Te Reo Māori, but be that as it may, I'll let that sit there. Mr. Speaker, the survival and the strength of Te Reo Māori has been an issue at the forefront of decades of devotion and advocacy. Protest after protest, hikoi after hikoi, submission after submission, report after report. So in the 1986 report on Te Reo Māori claim, and then in the 2011 Ko Aotearoa Tēnei report on Y262 claim, so we were warned that the likelihood of the terminal decline threatening the very survival of Te Reo Māori was imminent. In speaking to the Waitangi Tribunal in 1985, Sir James Henare cast the Māori language predicament in stark terms. So what he said was, ko te reo te Māori o te mana Māori, the language is the life force of the mana Māori. He continued, if the language dies, and as some predict, what do we have left to us? Then I ask our people, who are we? Those are pretty important statements, provocative statements, some might suggest, Mr. Speaker. So the founders of the kaupapa for Kohanga Reo responded to that challenge, creating a movement which was never intended to only be about early childhood education, but also encompassed Te Reo Māori, tikanga Māori, and of course whānau development. So last week, the tribunal stated that without Te Reo Māori me ngā tikanga Māori would not survive, and that the two are basically inextricably linked. The Waitangi Tribunal has now confirmed that, 1, the Trust claims was well founded, that the Crown has breached the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi, and that Kohanga Reo have suffered severe prejudice as a result of the actions of the Crown and missions by the Crown. So it goes on further to suggest that unless Kohanga Reo are supported and specific enrolment targets are achieved, Te Reo Māori will indeed die. So we're talking about something pretty serious, and therefore we hope that the report will be taken seriously. Mr. Speaker, although the tribunal recommendations and findings are not binding on the Crown, and that's another debate, and it has been raised on a number of occasions, the report does put on record the problems that the Kohanga Reo and the Trust have encountered and lays the foundation for setting things right into the future. The Crown is now on notice that it must take especially vigorous action to protect Te Reo Māori through Kohanga Reo, and that is the challenge that the Māori Party has prepared also to keep a close watching brief on to ensure that something does come out of that report. So I want to encourage all members of this House to read the report, Matua Arautia, for the excellent history it provides of the unique and indeed internationally renowned impact of the Kohanga Reo movement. It traces back in time to the days of Karapuketapu from here, the successes of the Two Tangata scheme, the 1979 Hui Kaumātua held at Waifetu, where it was agreed that the urgent action was needed to take control of the future destiny of the language and to plan for its survival. Te wānanga whakatauira in 1980 and 1981, out of which was established a working party chaired by Sir James Henare and comprising amongst others Lady Tilly Reedy, Ruka Broughton, Sir Moneta Delamere and Archdeacon Kingi Iaka, some of whom have passed away now. So out of this group emerged the origins of the Kohanga Reo strategy. That is, and if I can just read how Dame Iritana Tāwhiwhirangi described it. She said, Dr. Tamati Reedy, Deputy Secretary at the time, then came up with the idea of full immersion. The idea was that the language should be learned in the same way a child learns a language, in a context of a home environment. Thus, the concept that developed was that the language should be caught rather than taught in those early years. And the rest, of course, Mr. Speaker, is history. It's our history. The tribunal challenged us then, sir, to consider that whānau have the right to choose Kohanga Reo as a viable path, a cultural path to preserve and promote Te Reo Māori me ngā tikanga. It asked the Crown to reprioritise spending on Te Reo Māori and provide urgent funding for property maintenance and upgrades to avoid exposing, they say, the 3,000 mokopuna tamariki to the possibility of losing their buildings. The reporter reminds us that the Crown cannot put in regulations that are one size fits all, and kohanga reo should not be assessed by ERO in a way that undermines the kaupapa, and it encourages the Crown to promote and uphold a policy in a way that will respect the kaupapa and our kohanga reo to flourish. Sir, we hope that that is actually what the Crown does.
Dr. Megan Woods.
Mr. Speaker, ministers and former ministers have